Okay, welcome to the Comic Cabal episode 0. I am your host, Josh, and I'm joined with my brother Sixpath. How you doing? Okay, well, we're going to start off our introductions with how we got into comics. Six, you want to start first, and then I'll go after you. Shit. Hey, bet. So, were you into comic books like before, like the MCU got off the ground, or were you in afterwards? Hey, so who would you say is your favorite superhero or comic character? Okay. All right. I have to ask, are you still into the MCU or are you kind of done with it like most people? All right. So, do you have any comics that you're enjoying right now? I got you. So, do you collect comics or do you just read it online, or do you have any that you like your prized possession, if you will? Whew. And then my last question: would you say you're more into manga or comics now, or is it like a mix of both? So would you say that you like comics or manga more at this point? Okay, I guess so. What's your favorite manga right now? Oh, what is that about? Six. Hang on one second. Immortal Hounds.
Yeah, yeah.
So what is
Brief.
Immortal Hounds about?
Immortal Hounds is basically in a world where dying is basically a disease you can catch.
Okay.
Normally, people that aren't diseased with the disease called dying, they're perfectly normal people. Dying doesn't affect them at all. They can get shot in the head, back to normal. Fall off a cliff, back to normal. They just come back to life because die. And once you catch the disease, you can actually be killed. People that can people that transfer the disease are called vectors. Those are the scorn of society. You do not want to be caught with them. And there's a special task force that are set up to kill those people that can transfer those diseases. They're not necessarily bad people. Dude, they're regular everyday people. But if you're immortal and you can catch a disease, these from these normal people, yeah, they gotta go. But there are people called immortal hounds that don't want those people dying because that upsets the balance of the world. I love it.
Okay, cool. So
Very.
what genres? Like action, sci-fi,
It's a.
horror?
It's like a. Oh, how do I put this? It's like more. It's more mature. It's like action seinen.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then is it done or is it still going?
That's the funny thing about it. It is, I think it's about 40 chapters, and it is monthly,
Oh,
maybe
monthly. Okay, so
bi-monthly.
it's still ongoing.
So,
All right,
yeah.
cool, cool. All right, so for me, I got into comics back in 2015 as a freshman in college
Mm.
because it was one of those things. I was hearing online about this story called Superior Spider-Man, like you mentioned before. I'm like, huh. So Doctor Octopus takes over Peter Parker and tries to prove that he's a better Spider-Man in bed. That can't be good, whatever. So then I started reading. I'm like, wait, this is kind of gas. And then from there, actually, let me back up. My first comic that I started reading was actually Ultimate Spider-Man because
Mm-hmm.
I was reading Ultimate Spider-Man as a younger kid because when me and my family we went to Universal Studios and they had the comic book shop right there. It's like you walk in and then my dad he let me pick out a comic right before I left and I picked up the Ultimate Spider-Man. I think the volume where Venom shows up, and then of course, I was a child, so I thought, Venom was cool because he was the edgier, darker Spider-Man. Like the big, strong guy who was also scary because I love horror as well. So
Mm-hmm.
I picked that up, and then after that, I didn't really read any more comics because I live in a small town, so I didn't have any like comic shops near me. But fast forward to 2015, there's this app called Marvel Unlimited, which lets you read all of the Marvel comics that they've released, like since like till the present day for like it was like $100 I think to read everything. So I was like, bet let me get that in college now. I have a bunch of free time. So I started reading all of Ultimate Spider-Man, and then when I got to the end of that, I was like, oh well, Miles Morales shows up. And I'm like, cool, Black Spider-Man. So I read all of his stuff. I read Ultimatum. I read, and then
Go.
that was stop it. That was a journey. So I read all Miles Morales stuff, and then I caught up, and then I was really enjoying everything that he was in, even Ultimates, which I'm sad that they canceled that book because I really was enjoying that
Mm-hmm.
with Cloak and Dagger, Bombshell, and all of them.
Oh, the all new
Yeah.
Ultimates. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was kind of weird because I started reading comics during the all new, all different Marvel eras, so like everything was like really different from the MCU movies that I had been watching up until that point. I'm like, whoa, like the X Men are young now. There's a different Hulk. There's a different Thor, all
Yeah.
that. And it really didn't bother me because I was a new fan, so I was like, oh, this is kind of interesting because it was weird seeing Jean Grey hit on Miles, but anyway. Then after
People needed
that,
that.
yeah, and then after that, I got into Ultimate Spider-Man, or not Ultimate Spider, Superior Spider-Man, and then that was a gas pack. I read all of that. I'm like, cool. And then I started getting into X-Men, but after that, I kind of dropped off of comics for a bit because I got into manga more. Like I had read any manga until I started reading Berserk, and then I caught up to that during like a Christmas break during college, and then from there I kind of put comics on the back burner, like Six himself said he did as well. So, and then I started watching all this anime and then manga, and then comics kind of went back to the wayside until recently. I started reading more independent comics like Sandman, Animal Man, Hellblazer, all of that, like Vertigo stuff. So yeah, I was a mainstream comics fan up until recently, so I'm kind of a poser from what I put on Discord. So yeah, that's where I'm at right now. I'm reading more independent stuff, and I can say that I get more out of comics, I think, than I do manga at this point. Because for me, as a horror fan, I feel like there's sort of like a grittiness and a kind of not appreciation. I want to say more of like a I don't feel tension whenever reading horror manga, except for like one or two. Like you have, yeah, go ahead.
Funny you should mention that. Do you feel like it's a cultural thing? Like we as Americans, it's sort of when it's American comics and you see American horror. Do you feel like okay, we all know what's scary, so it's nothing. There's no debate on that. When it's when you read an Eastern or more maybe a manga horror, do you feel like there's just something we just have to sort of put our shoes into the writer's hand, into the writer's perspective to understand what they're going for,
I don't know.
or is there like a little?
I think there's a disconnect because whenever I read a horror manga, I'm like, this isn't really that scary. Maybe it has
It's
something.
unnerving.
Yeah, like maybe it has something to do with like the color, but I don't necessarily get what I want from horror from manga for the most part. Of course, there's outliers like my favorite horror mangaka is called Shintaro Kago. He has this horror manga called Superdimensional Love Gun. It's really messed up, but it's a good time. So if you like body horror, there's a horror recommendation for you. But I don't know. Like I see people online kind of praising Junji Ito manga, which don't get me wrong. Like I loved reading Uzumaki, but I'm just like, it's not better than some of the different horror comics I can pick up. Like something like I don't know, Swamp Thing or like I said, Animal Man, maybe something like Hellblazer. It kind of just feels more gritty than most horror manga to me.
I feel like I definitely do think this. Like I I'm not a horror guy. I do like horror games, which I do enjoy, but I don't know, there's something about horror-based illustrations, like comics or or manga. If the story's good enough, I'll hop into it like Berserk. But the idea is it's just not me. Like body horror, contortion horror, it just ain't me. But I will sink into it if I have to. And there's sometimes where if a story is good enough, I might be looking over my shoulder and just double checking my locks if it's good enough. Like after I read Uzumaki, I was like, bro, I can't ever those lollipops with the swirls. I couldn't do it, man. I couldn't do it. I'm good. I look at my it's just sometimes it's just that good, and I definitely do feel like the author's works are. I can't disagree that it's bad. It's just ain't for me, and I realize that a lot.
Okay, and then to cycle back, I guess becoming more and more into comics kind of soured me on the MCU because looking at the MCU films after I kind of became a quote unquote comic head, I'm just like, I can't watch these anymore. Like, these aren't the characters that are in the books. And I feel like they're Disney, for the most part, is kind of, I guess, min maxing, to use a gaming term. They're min maxing their movies to reach the widest audience possible so they don't make anything interesting anymore to me. But
Okay.
like, do you know where I'm coming from? Like, I feel like you have the Marvel formula. Like, I guess the joke on Twitter would be like, Marvel films can't have like a moment with like gravitas and I guess sort of downtrodden or depressing moment until like 5 minutes later there's like a joke coming out of nowhere. So
I mean, it's definitely true. Over time, it definitely did become more and more like that. I mean, let's compare like Iron Man, the first one. This dude is going. This dude gets dude gets his chest blown open. They gets kidnapped, and he's wherever, and they're telling him to build weapons, and he can't even understand what they're talking about. And then next thing you know, old boy that he teams up with to Dr. Yinsen. Next thing you know, oh, he grabs the AK to give Tony time to charge the suit while he's getting shot at, bro. Like, that would definitely not happen in today's Marvel. I'm sorry, even with a spy movie, that something like stuff like that would not happen.
Yeah,
And I
man.
definitely do think that, where Doctor Houston tells Tony, "Don't waste your life." A line like that would not be in. I don't think it would be in this modern day Marvel. It's just too much for because you got to appeal to kids, to the elderly, to the younger people. It's just a juggling act.
Yeah, I mean it's working because people are still eating up the Marvel cinematic universe. Like people at my job, and some kids I talk to, they really love Marvel. So I mean, I guess it's working. But to
Yeah.
me, and like I guess large portion of other people, they're kind of tired of getting they're tired of getting the same thing over and over. Like, but I mean, Black Widow is still like the highest grossing film that since the pandemic started. So I mean, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
I
Which
mean, that's true, but I've heard that the formula is kind of like changing some of the characters, even as they were found likable. I mean, look at Civil War. Apparently it ties into Falcon and Winter Soldier. That people don't really like these versions of Falcon and Winter Soldier because they're just like they're too buddy cop. And
yeah,
I've heard that's a
sort of
complaint,
like
but
the bare
I
bones.
don't really know of it.
I think a part of me is just getting tired of like the bare bones characterization that these characters get. Like you pick up like a Immortal Hulk, you're seeing like all this crazy high concept stuff, but we still have yet to get a Hulk movie or a Hulk character in the MCU that actually feels threatening. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Um. Speaking of which, then how do you feel about the character arcs of characters like Iron Man and Captain America?
I guess the funny thing is that I still haven't watched Endgame, so I haven't seen like the resolution to those arcs except for memes and what people have told me. But I mean, does anyone expect for Endgame for it to be their last movie? I mean, we all know that they're gonna in 10 years down the line that they're gonna cash in on nostalgia for these characters and they're gonna bring them back in some capacity. I mean, nobody really
They
expects them to
apparently
be over with.
from what I've heard, Loki opened up the multiverse. So
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So like, I mean, I don't really expect them to not ever come back in some capacity.
and but the funny thing is, we talk about how the MCU there's not like characters I love when we have to give praise to the Ultimate Universe.
I guess that's true, but I guess I do have to give the MCU credit for getting me into comics or back into comics, I should say. So I
Yeah,
mean, I
you had to
can't,
go explore the roots.
I can't really like fault them too much. They did their job. Which I mean, it's funny because these are like the highest grossing movies ever, and they can't get people into comic book shops. So it's kind of funny.
Yeah, it is kind of interesting, but I do hope that they don't try and bring the movie stuff into the comic. And they're two separate entities. Like the thing to me is that I understand that like with the Ultimate Universe, they try to merge everything together to make it a giant event. But at the end of the day, like the Ultimate Universe got the short end of the stick. It's pretty much dead until they bring it back. It's over. And those were the most. I will say this: those were the most potent stories I've ever read with the Marvel universe. And I do love both universes, but it just
uh,
doesn't feel the same.
I
And though
guess.
I will say this, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No matter what the MCU does, I'm not with them right now. But if they say Fantastic Four comes, then I have no choice but to get out of my seat and go do a movie
to go on a
because
to go on a small tangent, how do you expect them to introduce new properties like Fantastic Four and the X Men into the MCU?
um I think this thing is definitely going to come into play. Because remember, with the first Avengers movie, Captain America was looking into why is Shield using Hydra weapons? What are they doing?
So
And
do
Nick
you
Fury
think?
said that we have to assimilate every possible threat and every possible advantage. You don't think that with the idea with the Ultimate Universe, mutants were born with the idea of trying to replicate Captain America?
Yeah, that's what I think they're gonna do. I think they're gonna do that. They're gonna introduce them
But
that
do
way
you
instead
feel
of them
that's
being
too
like,
gritty?
no. I was gonna say like I think that's the only logical way you can do it to explain their absence for so long.
Mm.
Unless you want them to just come out of nowhere, which I mean that's gonna have to do even more like suspension of disbelief. So I
I mean,
guess because
I
you
feel like
can't
the
just be
thing.
like
Good.
they've just been absent this entire time. There's no way to make that
Oh,
like
like the Eternals.
possible. Or yeah, like Captain Marvel too, I guess.
Have you seen the Eternal trailer?
I did not. Like I said, I have not
Oh,
watched an MCU property. I mean, the last one I
I
watched, I skipped Endgame, but I did see Far From Home, which I did not like, so I haven't watched anything since.
Far From Home. It was okay to me, but I will say this: Mysterio made it, man. He made it,
That was
and
one of the best part of the movie.
that makes me too happy. He made it to the show, and all we need is Mr. Negative, and hey, we're in here. But
Yeah.
I will say this about I saw the Eternal trailer, and they said that okay, we're these super powerful, super advanced race of humans or humanoids, and we've helped influence humanity to become where it is. But also at the same time, we've never done anything to assist them until today.
Yeah.
It's
I
like,
mean,
bro, it's the weirdest. I don't, and that's the thing where we're sometimes okay. We're this super advanced group of people just came out of nowhere. They said we're not there, but we are there. It's just, and I feel like that's a little too much. Which I
yeah.
feel like the safer answer is opening up the multiverse, having
Yeah.
different universes come together. And I definitely do feel like that's better.
So what you're saying is you're gonna come back for Blade and the Moon Knight TV shows.
No, you know,
I mean, I did
uh,
like Oscar Isaac
uh,
and Mahershala Ali, but I don't have to see a trailer first.
that's a rough. Okay, because the thing is, I wanted Defenders to take off so badly, but it just wasn't it. So I'm kind of worried because honestly, I need this Moon Knight to hit. Because if Iron Fist had one of the simplest backstories, and if that can't hit, then I don't know, man. I don't know. The whole idea with like Khonshu and Mark Spector's whole backstory, I just don't know. Not to mention that he doesn't really have a fire nemesis like that. That's actually something I wanted to ask. We know that the idea that a series is okay. I hope that hero is only as good as their villain. Do you feel like a lot of these MCU heroes that are coming in now, like their nemesis are kind of corny, they're kind of whack.
Are you talking about
Like
like the new characters that have been created in the past 10 years?
Um, maybe so because what I don't know for sure because Moon Knight has like Bushwhacker and Black Spectre that I know for sure. Come on now, ain't nobody. Yo, there's
I
no way.
mean,
Like not everybody, and
I mean, did you
I think
watch Black? Did
Captain
you watch
America.
Black Widow? I mean, she was a
Yeah,
villain in that.
Taskmaster.
Yeah.
Dope. Yeah,
I mean,
but that's not really her. That's not really her nemesis.
yeah, like I said, so I think they're just gonna like pick and choose because I mean,
Yeah,
from what
yeah.
I've seen
Like Doctor Strange had
online,
Dormammu with that was cool.
so
I
yeah,
feel like Captain America was so close to having only one good villain, and kind of good because Red Skull. Come on, come on. But had there been no Winter Soldier, props to whoever made Winter Soldier because he really saved Captain America's ass.
I mean, they really don't have it. They really didn't have access to their big hitters until recently. I mean, you look at
Okay,
they didn't have
okay, so
They didn't have Norman Osborn. They didn't have
right.
Galactus. They didn't have Magneto. They didn't have Doctor Doom. So they
I
kind
mean,
of had to
but
make do with what they had. So I think
yeah, but they also had Ultron. So it's not. Oh, they also had Ultron and Thanos. Had they not had those two, then okay, I can see like okay, props for them doing what they did. But come on, it wasn't that down bad.
to kind of segue away from this, are you a Marvel or DC head?
Longest time, I was DC guy. I know there's like the idea where I do like I can definitely name more Marvel events off my head, but I'm a DC guy at heart.
Yeah, I feel the same way.
Justice League animated, Justice League Unlimited, Legion of Superheroes, best one of the three right there. And it's just
Whoa, what about Young Justice?
okay, yeah, Young Justice, the first few seasons, because I just don't. Outside is just not for me. I'm sorry.
All right, man.
Even though
Not
they
that
did
bad.
have Lobo come back.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I feel like I'm more of a DC head than Marvel, but I've read more Marvel comics than DC comics, which is kind of funny.
And the funny thing is about the whole villain thing I just brought up. That work I heard that applies more to DC than any other than Marvel because who does Superman really have like that?
I mean,
Doomsday, yes.
Brainiac.
Zora, Zod, yes.
Come
Lex
on.
Luthor, okay.
Okay, Brainiac. Yeah, come on.
Brainiac, yeah.
That,
So
Bizarro. Come
Mr.
on.
Mixie, like,
Yeah. Hey. Yep, yes sir.
Okay, that sounds cool, but like that was that's not what the Man of Steel's first villain is gonna
Yeah,
be.
true.
No way.
Which makes me kind of sad because like all the DC movies except Shazam are awful. Not
And,
good.
and, and that's even worse for Wonder Woman, because who does she really have? Ares?
You saw Cheetah.
Cheetah?
I guess. I mean, I'm not the most familiar with the
Wh-
Wonder Woman
Yeah,
comics, so
I'm not that. I'm not really either. And the funny thing is, this really means that out of all the heroes, DC and Marvel included, Batman and Spider-Man have the best group of villains.
And Flash is doing Trickster, Candy Cole, all of what's going again. All Green Lantern villains are pretty much carbon copies of them. You know, I love Green Lantern, but it's just the truth. It's just.
I mean, for me, like I like Batman as much as the next guy, but I'm not really interested in Batman comics, which is kind of funny because I'm more of like a what do I want to say? Hang on one second.
Batman movies and the Batman movies are fun too. You know, I think that's particularly the one where he has like I just don't know. It's like I'm kind of tired of Joker. I'm kind of tired of I do really like the villain guy. I'm kind of tired of. I don't know. It's just weird. But
yeah, I feel you. I mean, which is why I'm kind of excited to get into the Green Lantern comics because I really like sci-fi and space stuff, so I really want to read those next. But,
how do you feel about the live action shows like the Gotham?
I haven't watched any of those because they all look bad. Well, I watched Smallville. I watched season 1 of Smallville, and then I watched season 1 and 2 of Flash. But after that, yeah, nothing.
I'm not gonna lie, bro. Like, Flash did have some pretty good moments in the beginning, but now it's just like I think a friend of mine, like she said that it's like a soap opera. This guy's in a superhero show.
It's the CW curse, man. You get one good season, and then after that, it's off the rails.
I'm just like, bro. I'm thinking, bro, they have gotta see before it shows up in live action before showing up in animated. Damn, wow, that I'm surprised. It's very interesting.
So I guess the last part of this introduction topic, is there any comic that you read that you want to see as a movie or TV show that hasn't been made yet?
Let me think. As a TV show, because honestly,
like we said, the success from Invincible, what that did for a lot of people, even though I might have my problems with the property.
I honestly might love to see a return to form for Young Justice. It just keeps. I was thinking something else, but it just kept coming up the tip of my tongue. Like before they became all grown up and they had this tease the next group of outsiders, quote unquote. Like, bro, oh my gosh, but oh lord.
So give me 1 second. Give me 1 second. All right. So show that you or comic that you want to see adapted.
Comic that I want to see adapted. I would say a Green Lantern comic, but it's just I'd love to see the Sinestro War adapted. Now that I think about it, that was a very good. That's one of my favorite DC event. Period. Like Superboy Prime showing up, Cyborg Superman, Anti-Monitor, and then that leading all up to the Black Lantern. Yeah, that was something else. And then it ends with not a super imagination fight with the rings. No, it ends with Sinestro, Hal Jordan, Kyle Rayner being depowered, and these niggas had to fight it out. And Hal Jordan puts a brick over Sinestro's head. Oh my gosh, that's something I really do like. Because I don't really care about how strong superheroes or villains are the strongest. I always see how the strong are their weakness, bro. Take away all that shit. Let's see what they can do. Because everybody says Batman's all tough, but he didn't have that utility belt. I beat his ass. No, I really want to see that.
Any indie
just straight hands.
Any indie comics? Because I know you were really into Radiant Black recently. Would you like to
see
a show of that?
Radiant Black is definitely doing its thing, but I need to see more of it because it's definitely laying some groundwork. But I need to see more. I would like to see a movie of Ninja K or Ninja. It had a very interesting run with some very flashy villains. I think that would be a pretty fun movie. But it had to be animated because I definitely do not want to see this in live action.
You read Ultramega, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I think I really want to see that. Like, I
In
feel
live
like
action?
that. No, not live action. More of like a animated series. So I feel like with animation, you can do a whole lot more. And I feel like if you, I don't know, maybe give it to like Amazon or maybe like HBO or something like that. Kind of just like go all out on like the grittiness. We got like the cosmic horror. We got like the Ultraman aesthetics. You got the people fighting kaiju, but it's not necessarily the most like glamorous thing. You see limbs getting ripped off. You see, like I said, body horror where people are
Shut up.
like losing
Shut
limbs, like they're bleeding, all this kind of stuff. So I think it could be really
shut up,
good.
buddy's head.
Yeah.
Like, oh. Bro, there was so many times where I just had to, like, I was at a loss for words, bro. I'm like, you know what you're reading, so you're like, okay, that's kind of cool. I would just like radio silence inside my head the entire time I read that, and I kind of don't like that because I don't know what I was thinking. Like, bro,
Yeah, and the series is a good thing where it doesn't do like the try hard of like when like a Western cartoon or comic is trying to pay homage to like something from like Japan or
look how many
Korea or
references we
something
got.
like that. It doesn't do the try hard thing, where you just like, oh, this is what anime is, people talking really fast and doing kind of like Dragon Ball Z type of bullshit in their show. It's kind of respectful without doing its own thing, or doing its own thing.
Yeah, yeah, it's saying like, okay, we like this stuff. We like Ultra Mega. We like Ultraman. We like Kaiju, and we like this about it. And
Yeah,
that's it.
it's no High Guardian Spice, I'll tell you
Oh,
that.
most people, no, he's not.
hmm
Let me not say nothing.
Yeah,
High Garden Spice is a
that
show.
shit, that shit still hasn't come out. That is funny.
We're waiting on you.
They buried that boy. Let me tell you.
We know sometimes some things come back to life, but we'll be there for it.
Like I got no problems with Crunchyroll, man, but where's that money going? I'm just saying. I'm
That's the
just
thing about it is,
saying.
do you?
I want answers.
That begs the question: How do you feel about the Americanized aesthetic of anime? Because we love to talk about the
I don't have a problem with it. I just wish they wouldn't call it anime because it feels like they don't have confidence in their own product or their own culture or animators to call it what it is. It's just an action cartoon, which is nothing wrong with that, but you're just kind of saying that. No, we think. Well, the thing is, the problem with Netflix calling most of their shows anime, they only have one thing that they consider anime, which is action, violent cartoons. Nothing else. That's my problem with it. Like,
and the thing about it is, it's weird to me because Castlevania is not an anime. The studio made it was in Texas. They might have outsourced, but and the thing is, it just get it like, bro. I understand that you don't want to call it that. It's like when you say something out loud, but you look at the title, so you say it low, so nobody can really hear it. Like, oh, it's a cartoon,
I
huh?
mean,
What you say?
I will say Castlevania is the one like American cartoon that I see that actually puts effort into direction. Like
Oh
you see
no, it,
camera
it is
rotations, you see different kind of animation tricks to make the action look better.
right. Yeah, they use rotoscoping. I see a few 3D frames here. I'm thinking, okay, they're
Unlike
serious.
Invincible, but anyway,
Nah, all right, all right.
anyway,
Bro, all right.
anyway.
Invincible story. You just wait for it.
Yeah, man.
Castlevania won't know what hit him.
Like I said, like I was telling you off the podcast, Invincible trick y'all, man. But we'll leave it at that. We'll leave it at that for today.
Oh
Do
my
you have anything
god.
else before we get into our topic?
Um, man, Invincible's the future. Y'all just old.
All right. Well, I guess we'll segue into our question of the week, which is manga versus comics. Like, do you see the comic industry like catching up in terms of having that cultural significance with like the younger audiences? Do you see that coming back, or is it too far gone?
Um, first off, we got to stop eating each other. Like this is first off, we got to get in one mindset that this is business and that's business first. Putting out good product after good product, and then we can get the extracurriculars, that being all this other stuff. First off, we need to nail down what the people like, and we focus on that. Second of all, we need to stop. We need to put out good quality work because I don't know about you. Though I like Ultimatum, I can't deny from a business aspect that thing went on for 6 months. That was like a 6 issue. That was like a 6 issue story once a month. Half a year of that. Oh man, that I can definitely see how that's month after month. People getting killed off or bad stuff happening. Yeah, that was not good. And I can understand taking risks, but that was bad. Not to mention, whereas manga is more week to week or bi-weekly, so it won't stay around or linger too long before a new chapter comes out. That's definitely more efficient. Though I can see how that taxes a lot of the
I'll ask,
artists, because we have colors too.
mhm. I'll ask you this:
Colors and
you think comics are too expensive?
what do you mean by that?
Like most comics are either $3.99 or $4.99 for 30 pages.
30 pages.
That's
Let me
not
think.
if you're not buying trades. That is.
Okay. For 30 pages, that doesn't seem too bad, honestly. Because if it's coming out, $5 for yeah, $5 for 30 pages. Yeah, I'll pay that, because it's
Okay.
usually for like a standard manga issue. That's like what 100. It's like 100 and about 120 pages for $9.
Okay, we can go back and forth on this. What is one major issue that you think has made comics not exactly popular, even though they are the highest grossing movie properties for probably like the past 15 years?
I definitely do think, like, I understand that the work of an artist is very important. That it takes a lot of time and it's physically demanding. Don't ever let anybody tell you it's not. But when you see a fire cover that you think like, bro, if this is what the art is going to be, then we're in for a wild ride. You open it and it is not what you see on the cover, and the fact it is not what you see on the cover is something a downgrade. Even though art is subjective, to me, it's a downgrade.
So
You
it's
tricked
like
me.
you see something like an Alex Ross cover, and then you open it up, and then you're like, oh, I've been tricked. Is that what you're
All
saying?
right. We've been hoodwinked, led astray, lied to, run amok.
So
It's not fun.
going off the art, do you think it's like a problem with maybe like something like paneling and action where you see something with fluid action like One Punch Man or your run of the mill shonen manga like JJK? Is it something
You know,
like that the action is just better in manga, or they have a more abundance of like good action creators? Is it something like that?
let me think. Because I definitely do feel like we and the manga and the comic industry, we focus more on it being more cinematic. When someone gets their arm, it's not really dynamic. It doesn't look like their arms got lobbed off. It looks like they were supposed to two action figures held in pose, but those action figures are
108K. Like they look great. So they sacrifice it looking good for they sacrifice dynamism for it looking good. Which I definitely do feel like that's not really a big thing within the manga industry.
I think
Because if
that
you look at the art styles that are being pushed, you think that okay, anybody can do this.
yeah, I don't necessarily think like the paneling or the action is a problem. I think that most people are like you don't want to be the guy that just pushes some like avant-garde indie comic like I don't know, like Sandman's not probably like the best sort of like I guess example for this, but like you can't give like a normie off the street the first volume of Sandman and go like, hey, you should read this. You can't give that to like your run of the mill like Dragon Ball Z, My Hero, or I don't know, Fruits Basket fan. You got to kind of like ease them into that, but they're going to get most of their idea of what they think comics are from a DC or Marvel property. So
This is what I actually do want to ask. This is kind of a touchy subject. However, do you feel like how the how the women look in a comic plays a large part to the appeal?
oh boy,
Or how the
that's
characters
a
be
can of
more
worms. That's a can of worms. I don't think people have a problem with the way that women are depicted because you see some of these like women in manga and that draws like okay like attractive people draw people to the media. Like you have like an attractive person on the cover, someone's going to open it. I mean, everyone wants to say that they're all for like body positivity or characters looking like normal, but nobody actually wants to read a story like that. They want to see beautiful people in the manga or in the comic book. So I think it's just Twitter grandstanding, but I don't want to get into my that topic is a can of worms. But I will say that a lot of people on Twitter are lying. Just don't let them fool you.
Well, the thing is, I feel there's a possibility that some people say this because it doesn't matter to me. I'm not gonna read it anyways. But however, because I feel like yes, you can have very far times and still look good. So I definitely don't feel like that covers up for saying this is my art style, man. Because if I'm drawing, I'm gonna try and give the best I can, no matter what.
Twitter users trick y'all, man. Like, and I guess that kind of goes into like comics are already a niche medium, and then okay, so have you seen like those graphic novels that DC is trying to like advertise at like the back of like your run of the mill issue of like the Flash, of Batman, Wonder Woman, things like that? Have you seen those?
Can you repeat that? What did you say?
Have you seen those graphic novels, like those standalone graphic novels that DC is making, that are advertised in like the back of like issues of like a comic you're reading?
Oh yeah.
So I watched a video on this on YouTube, and it was like, comics are already a niche medium, and who exactly is the audience for the like I don't know, like the I'm Not Starfire kind of graphic novel that's kind of hit the whole anti-SJW YouTube and Twitter sphere? Because I think people like that, they're reading stories like My Hero, they're reading stories like JJK, they're watching stuff like Fruits Basket. So I don't think representation is the issue here. Because yeah, go ahead.
Well, maybe because that's not something that the East is particularly dying or worrying about. But that is a concern we have in our media, which there is balance to it. So because they'll try and take the essence from that manga they like and put their spin on it or what they want to see in it. That means more representation, which isn't bad. That's how a lot of works are made. But it just something get lost in translation. Because I feel like if a lot of these people had somebody to like help them fine tune their work, or cut up a piece here and add some there, they would actually have something here, or maybe have something even better than what they have. But it all comes down to whether you take some criticism and what you do with it.
Yeah, for every person on Twitter that says that they're all for comics like this, do you think regular consumers that are not these like I guess blue check I don't know what you want to call it, these blue check artists, do you think they're aware of these comics are trying to pander to them, and then they realize that the story is not exactly good, it's just it has all the pandering on the surface? Do you think the consumers are aware of that? And not in the SJWs are ruining our comics type of sense. Do you think just your regular person off the street is just like, yeah, that's cool and all, but I don't really care? Do you think that's part of it? They're realizing these companies are pandering to them and they're not liking it?
Okay. Sometimes. Oh, was there an echo?
Oh, was it? Is it good?
Hold on. 1 second.
Okay.
Okay. How about now? Okay, it's good.
Okay.
When I say this, some people are pandering. Okay, it's like when some person makes some food you like. Hey, that's a nice surprise. But I feel like sometimes, because if you're talking like that whole Starfire shoot, I read the back of it and said, okay, it's a pretty interesting story. Okay, a person is trying to live up to their mother. Okay, that's fine. Or find their own identity outside the shadow of their parents. Hey, some people can live with that story. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
But I just feel like the execution wasn't at the point where it should be, because it's just weird.
It's weird because like the character in the story looks like the writer that's making it, so it's just like a sort of like self-insert situation, which I mean I can admit that I'm not part of the target audience, so I'm not going to be like, this looks terrible, but I don't know. Like, part of me feels like are they wasting their time doing this and not worrying about their mainline titles?
Hold on, Josh. You're coming in and out.
Oh, am I? Hang on.
Yeah, are you leaning away from your microphone?
Is this better?
Yeah, much better.
Okay, I said, is part of me realizing do you think it's like a situation where they're not focusing on their actual titles, like their mainline titles, and then they're focusing on like who is the audience for these standalone graphic novels? Like if they're not picking up their flagship titles, is there an audience for this? That's what I'm thinking.
It's just I'd have to take a peek at the numbers, and it's like if you take a peek at the numbers, I
No, because you gotta ask. If it is for somebody, there's a market for somebody. So I do feel like it's getting picked up, but I just don't know for sure because the person that would like this is that like, does they like it for the art, the story, like, or do they like it for the fact that it exists? It's like a black owned business, but the food ain't exactly that good.
Okay.
You're happy it exists, and that's the bare level.
To kind of steer this like back on track, sort of, do you think it's a problem where like these mainline publishers have too many titles?
Definitely.
Okay. But
like,
I mean, but how do I want to say this? But you know, you have your Shonen Jump magazine that has 14 series in it, and no one says that there's too many titles in Shonen Jump. Like, do you think that's, well? I guess also the other thing is that these are all like standalone series, so you could easily like jump in and jump off and jump back on. But I don't know, man. Like, I guess the next direction would be like, do you think that? Well, I know because me and you, we read indie titles. I guess the outside looking in, the person would say that comics are only like superhero and cape stuff. But do you think that DC and Marvel should have their own imprints like Vertigo, where they should have like their sort of like experimental stuff?
Fun fact, they did. Like, I know Marvel when I was reading a lot of ago, they were doing like adaptations and stuff like Hansel and Gretel and like I know another series I read, Maximum Ride. They were doing adaptations of things like comic book adaptations, and that's fine. But I do feel like they lost focus, like a lot of these big companies do. They lost focus of what makes them great because over time, comics are a big commitment. Can we agree on that? Like it's just when you read a lot of them, it's like this is the thing that I think manga has over comic books.
And let's be real here. Like I would say 99% of manga fans, they read scans of some type. So I don't think price is really an issue here.
It's not. Do you imagine if like a series like One Piece with 1,000 chapters was like all these different series broken up, and you had to do it like this, then jump from here to here, back to here, over here again, backflip onto this other series to catch up. I don't think it would be as big as it is because
do you think they need something like the Shonen Jump app? I mean, there are services like this, but we don't really see them
a series that puts it in order.
No, like we have the Shonen Jump app where, of course, you can read, I guess, One Piece from chapter 1. You could read Dragon Ball from chapter 1. Any manga that was in Shonen Jump from chapter 1. And there's services like that for Marvel and DC, but we don't see them advertised anywhere. Like, you would think that they would put like an ad like right before the movie starts, like, hey, you can read this series from issue 1 on the app. Go here and find it, but you don't see that. That doesn't make any sense to me.
That's actually pretty interesting. Putting interest onto the comic when the movie's about to start, before it starts. That's actually really interesting.
Like there's no synergy like in like the comics or in the live action movies. Like you would think like what I would do if I was the head of Marvel or DC right now, like right before the movie starts, we would have like an interview with the actor and then maybe the artist and writer of the story, where the actor would be like, they would ask the writer questions like, what was your inspiration for this story? Blah blah blah. Like, how did you come up with this? Like, what was your mindset? Like like a short, maybe 2-3 minute interview right before the movie starts. So you can put like the names and faces to the people that are writing these characters that the movies are based off of. Because I think the one thing that you get from the manga community is you get sort of like the auteur theory where you can put a name and a face to a person based on their work. Like in the manga community, like we know the names. So we know Oda, we know Toriyama, we know any other type of manga artist that you want to throw out there. But
they try to make common knowledge.
Yeah, but in the comics community, of course, you have like your well-known authors like Grant Morrison, Alan Moore, or
Jonathan Hickman.
yeah, you have those people, but in the manga community, it seems more ubiquitous. Like you pull up a manga fan off the street, you could ask them who is the writer of their favorite manga, and they could throw it out at you. But with comics, you could say my favorite superhero is Spider-Man, but you can't put a name and a face to the writer or a story arc of Spider-Man. I think that's
Well,
like
I
the
think that
main
goes
issue
into
with it.
I think it goes into like the idea where with the royalties with certain storylines, because how many storylines do we have? How many creators, different people made? Because Stanley didn't make everything.
Yeah,
Yeah, because if you source it all back to Stanley, there's one guy you got to give royalties to. But if you have the Winter Soldier, you have the Winter Soldier, then Thanos, then all these other people, then there's a lot of royalties going to different places, and I think that goes into the business practices. But because I don't know for sure, then I can't confirm. But I just
yeah,
feel like
yeah.
it's an interesting business practice.
Part of me would also think that since we're an English speaking audience and comics are the most popular movies, so people would seek out like the writers of these stories, but it doesn't happen. And like these writers, they don't have big Twitter followings on Twitter or like someone like Horikoshi. He has like 1.7 million Twitter followers, or maybe someone like I don't know Dan Slott who was the writer on Spider-Man recently and who's on Fantastic Four right now. He barely has maybe over 200,000. Which I mean, you could also say that Horikoshi has fans from Japan and America than other English or other countries across the world. But yeah, it's just kind of weird. Like I feel like if I was a writer of some of these stories, that I'd be kind of like, where's my fanfare almost, you know?
Oh, that's actually very interesting. I don't know for sure, but imagine like this. Okay, say you like Superior Spider-Man.
Yeah.
The run just ended. Dope. You want, you know, a figurine of Superior Spider-Man. All the costumes that he had. Don't you think those royalties would go? Majority of them would go to the people that made that.
Yeah, and I
But
guess
there's so many different peoples that it's not like one person. It's like okay, I'll put it like this. Manga is a steel ladder. It's up and down. There's no going left or right. You just go up. Now, comics is a tree.
yeah,
You can climb it, but you got to put your leg here. Okay, over put your arm there, and it's a bunch of different climbs. You got to reach from different places to pull up. You can climb both, but one is infinitely easier, and it's definitely easier to find the source of what made it, what it was. I mean, with a ladder, you can just look down and you find where the source, where it started. With a tree,
yeah. I feel
it
like I have to.
ain't that easy.
No, I feel like I have to check myself sometimes because I feel like the people that say that comics are impossible to start, I'm like, the internet, Google is free. I mean, you have an internet connection. You can type, where do I start, blah, 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 here. But I guess I put too much faith in my fellow human that
Ah,
if they're interested in something, they would at least put a minimal amount of effort into researching.
maybe that's
Like you have to research for any hobby you start, whether it be like you want to start rock climbing, mountain biking, or
maybe that goes into the MCU. That is like the manga version. It's super streamlined. You don't. There's not much. There's really not much you have to do.
yeah. But a person like me would be like, okay, cool. You got the
But Josh,
movie.
how many people are like you?
Yeah, yeah. That's what I'm saying. I have to check myself sometimes because I feel like, cool. I saw the movie version, but what's the real version like? But most people aren't like that, like you said. Most people just
But
want to go to the
some people
movie.
say the movie version is the real version because that's the one people
That
pay attention to.
sucks because it's so watered down. It sucks so hard.
But the metal arm.
And then I guess my next talking point. Do you feel like most manga fans think that manga is less, to use a lack of a better term, politicized? It's less red tape around it. There's this one person in their artistic vision. While you go to Marvel, it's this huge Disney corporation type of thing. There's all these hands in the pie. Do you think it's sort of like that, or do you think people don't really care about things like that?
I don't. Let's say like okay.
What do you think?
I think the MCU
factor, but it's not as big as people think. Because look at it like this. Why would Disney try to reach in and say, okay, guys, I need you guys to make something that can get from the MCU? Like, what? I don't think that really But I do think there's a lot of red tape because
They're talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you. Go ahead.
Are you talking about, like, when you say politicized? What do you mean, like the themes, or what do you, or like the office politics?
I think sort of like a mix of both, right?
Okay.
Like, I feel like when people say that manga isn't politicized, like, you don't know what's happening in Japan. You aren't a Japanese citizen. So these kind of like intricacies and like small details can be there. But of course, you're not going to notice it since you're not the target demographic. Meanwhile, you will see like every so often in a Marvel or DC comic, they'll throw in, I guess, some sort of current events thing. Like in the new Static comic, like the
The
where
riots.
Static gets his powers are from like the a Black Lives Matter protest, and then people kind of complain about how they want their escape from real world politics. Meanwhile, you could have something like My Hero, where they have a character based on a war criminal, and people get upset about that. But that there is an example of that. There's politics almost in I'm not gonna say it's in every work, but it's there in like every medium. So do you think
Okay.
that people get mad because they're aware of the things that they see, and they go to manga because it's this different culture from them? Do you think it's like that? Like,
Uh, I feel it's like this. Okay. Well, I feel like I'm of the same. I don't really care much for politics, though. I have to admit that they do exist in some sort of part. Like you could you could just be chilling, drinking a bottle of water, but there's somebody that feels like you should be drinking from a metal can because that's more recyclable. It just there's always something political about it. Though I feel like comics are more vocal about it. They make sure you see it.
also, do you think part of the reason is that we can actually American culture is different. Like you'll have the writer like saying whatever they want on Twitter. Meanwhile, Japan they're more reserved and they're not necessarily as
I do.
outspoken.
That is something I
You think
do
that's a
give
major?
to the. I do feel like yeah, because it gives you into like I do feel like I appreciate that with a lot of manga. They're focusing more on their story than whatever political agenda they're trying to push. And I don't. At the end of the day, the comics to me is about the art. Is it good? That's what I'm really worried about. And a lot of the times, it's not.
Yeah,
It's really
yeah,
not because, bro,
I
you
feel
could be
that.
saying it's like a basketball player. You could be saying everything you want on Twitter, but if you're only putting in 3 points a game, then you're worried about the wrong thing.
Do you
Like,
think I think not to say that I have any insight in how Japan works, but do you think it's because like manga is sort of seen like I guess an everyday thing? Like you'll see like a Japanese businessman pull out manga on the train. You'll see a kid pulling out. You'll see like a girl at the coffee shop pull out a manga. Do you think it's just so intertwined with Japanese society that the competition is so fierce? Like everyone knows manga. There's such a big
but
competition to get into the manga industry. Do you think that's why the art's so good is because they have to kill themselves making it. Meanwhile, comics are seen as kind of like
I mean, possibly so, because if you're gonna, I'd say like like the superhero culture is just as entrenched as we are. I think that's why My Hero took off, especially here because you see someone walking down with a Captain America shirt. You'll go to any type of store and you'll see something superhero,
yeah, but like I said,
like a superhero balloon or something. Like
like since manga is part of their culture to a greater extent than comics are to ours. Outside, well, I mean, comics are part of our culture in the sense that you'll see Superman shirts, you'll see Superman like coffee mugs and things like that, but we're not necessarily prone to reading the comics like we were back in the like 70s, 80s, 90s. Like, I think part of the reason why we say the art is better is, like I said, that it's a fiercer competition because it's intertwined in our culture. Like, you like
it's do
look
or
at the
die.
look at the Olympics right now. I mean, we got the Japanese Olympics team playing openings from Haikyuu and Slam Dunk. I mean, what like in the Olympics if it was held here? Do you think
I
it
hope
would
they don't lose because after that, bro, there's no way you can play a hype opening and then you lose. Please don't.
I'm pretty sure they won both times they played the song, but still, like, of course there are good comic artists out there, but if you're a comic artist, why would you want to draw for DC or Marvel unless you want to get your name out there?
I mean, it's kind of like working for like Apple or Microsoft. Once you get there, you got it made, pretty much.
True.
Like, and the idea of it is, a lot of people in the U.S. we're not like it's not saying we're weaker hearted or we're not. Oh, it's the idea of some people just don't want to kill themselves to make something.
Sure. Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's very much okay. And I think that's why they go to Marvel or DC, because a lot of the work of marketing and praying to God that it just takes off. It's not really there. It's pretty much handled. It just has to be good or get out on time.
Okay, to tackle the elephant in the room here, why do Marvel and DC or any indie comics for that matter, why do they not push for animated TV shows, since we see that anime is pretty much taking over the world right now? Why are they not pouring money into these animated TV shows until as of late? Why?
I started thinking about Star Wars getting an anime, so I don't know. Like,
the idea of Japanese studio, though.
I think people are scared of making serious animations.
Yeah.
Unless it's styled by anime, and I think Invincible is kind of changing that, but slowly.
Yeah, I think that's part of the stigma of the American culture is that cartoons are still seen as for children. Meanwhile, the serious adult stuff is the anime from Japan. The mystical thing.
Yeah, but the thing of it is, it's weird to me because some of the best stories can be told through this stuff, and the thing is, I think that's why people. It's weird to me because
you don't downplay the fact that your coworker or someone that's not in the manga and anime community, they're not watching cartoons. They still think it's cartoons is like children's stuff. So yeah, like I said, anime has just been part of Japanese and worldwide culture for decades, multiple decades now. So it kind of passed the for kids stigma a long time ago, and we're still trying to rectify that over here.
Yeah, I think for better or for worse, we think that this for better or for worse that we watch it for certain things. It's usually for just for kids, or it's for crude humor with no message. But animation is a pretty big thing. I mean, Disney wouldn't be where it was, and I don't always chalk it up to just for kids, but Disney is Pixar movies are pretty big, and they weren't much for kids either. Even if you look at the older Disney movies, like the Princess movies, I can't believe I'm saying this. Those are pretty brutal. I don't think those were for kids either.
Yeah, I mean, it's just kind of sad, man. We pay animators more than they do in Japan. I think I was reading an article on Anime News Network. It was like Japanese animators make 20,000, while American and Canadian animators make 60 to 70,000. You would think they're making
I'm not gonna talk at anybody's bag. This just proves that Invincible is the future, because once we start to take stories like these,
Jeff Bezos, bro, people. Why does it look like ass?
Because it was the first season.
That doesn't mean
they weren't sure it was gonna work. Why do you think it was so long? Why do you think they were?
Okay. You say this, but Robert Kirkman has the cachet from The Walking Dead to pretty much do whatever he wants.
That just pushed it up even higher.
He can do whatever he wants. There's no reason Invincible has to look like a slideshow half the time.
Because it was the first season. Not only is animation expensive, this is the company that wouldn't really take a risk like that. They had to make sure. Let's say that they put a big budget behind Invincible season 1 and it flopped. Now they're looking like that. Now they sit on the sideline, no date to the prom. They just look stupid. But they put a little bit of gasoline in the car, got where they need it. They're thinking,
to make money.
Yeah, and now that they see that it works, they're gonna put more money behind it. I can say this. I just believe that for a fact that the next few seasons are going to look great. Even better than before, because there's more money behind it. We're going to see a lot more stuff. And I just hope that they say that, okay, we've done enough to get people to watch. We won't do any better. Right. I just hope that's not the case, because...
Yeah. I hope so. That's just... I'm hoping that we get more indie stuff animated, which, is kind of like a hard sell, because indie creators barely make ends meet as it is, so they're not going to necessarily have the the clout and or the budget to let's animate all of I don't know, pick a random indie comic. What's a popular one? I'm trying to think of one.
Popular indie comic?
Yeah, like all the indies I'm thinking of are like behind big names already. So let's pick something like
Yeah, like most of them like stuff like Robert Kirkman. These are like
yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm trying to think like I could use Ultramega as an example, but like
Spawn.
Kaiju's
Wasn't that made by
like
Robert Kirkman, or am I wrong?
no, that's Todd McFarlane, but he owns Image.
Right.
So,
Yeah, I was thinking like, hold on.
I mean that's a different bag. But let's take something like Ultramega. Tokusatsu and horror is kind of a hard sell to a mass audience, but if you do it right, it can be super popular, like Power Rangers was in the past. But yeah, man, I don't know. Like the stuff I want to see animated probably will never happen, but they're making a Faust TV show, which is this like super gory indie comic. It's coming out by Sony Pictures, so who knows? That may open the door for other, you know, off the beaten path indie series. But
I just hope that gore doesn't have to be
but
a
to
selling
segue to
point
the
for these
next
shows
part,
to
what's
really
what's
take off.
something that you get from comics that you don't get from manga, and something that you don't get from, and something that you get from manga that you don't get from comics?
I just hope gore isn't something that they have to push for it to take off, because that's just
I still like the idea of it because it has to be terrible for it to really make a dent.
or make a move. And I know Invincible is bloody in its own right, yes, and they like to remember you that, but there is heart behind it. I think that's a reason why it did what it did.
Wait,
You can't just
can you
say
repeat
like.
that? Sorry.
I think okay. A
Stop
lot of
again.
these shows now they have to be gory or super visceral for it to really take off or leave a mark. And I think that's why a lot of people drift into Invincible. But I'd hope by the end of it that they saw that okay, there's a story behind this and it has heart.
So you're
Because
saying
that's why I feel like a lot of these stories are forgetting. Like
so
you
you're
have to
saying
get
that
you have to get
that
emotional response that doesn't have to do with shock.
okay, so you're saying that you feel like comics have more heart behind it than manga or your average
I
manga, I should say.
how do I put this? I feel like it's more personal.
Okay.
Yeah, it's more personal to me because definitely manga does have a lot of personal stories. However, for me, I think I've noticed more that comics they try to connect to you
Okay.
in
A more wide reaching
in
approach.
a less orchestrated way,
Okay.
in a
Can you
far less
expand on that a
orchestrated way.
little
They try
bit?
to get to you, and there's nothing wrong with that. I just feel like a lot of them
Okay,
are forgetting that. Okay,
so you feel like comics are more personal than your
definitely,
average manga.
definitely.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I can agree with that. Okay, then what's something that you get from manga that you don't get from comics then?
I definitely do feel like time after time that it does. That the art is a bit more consistent. That the fights are a bit more, how do I put this? A bit more high octane, a bit better orchestrated. I do
Okay.
feel like there are definitely a lot of emotional moments, but I definitely just feel like it's a great comics where comics kind of like fell off or slow down. Manga picks up. It's
Okay.
definitely a good substitute and sometimes a good place to go because comics and manga aren't so different. They just did different things. They did things differently, but they get the same result. Like at the end of the day, you want to get a response and get your reader to feel something. And I just feel like comics just doesn't know how to do that without making a super gory
Yeah.
story.
Yeah, I feel like for at least the slice of life aspect, you get that in a bunch of different manga, but in like a mainstream comic, you'll get it for maybe like two or three panels. It won't be anything substantial. So I do think that, well, at least for like the main two, I want to say that Marvel and DC need to, like, you have the clout. Why not use it to explore different avenues, and then maybe you'll get some duds, but there'll be a hit or two in there, and you could afford to take the hit. I mean, your movies are raking in billions of dollars, but not to cut you off. You have anything else?
I mean, look at a company that I mean, if you're talking about companies taking risks and making things, I mean, look at Crunchyroll. They tried to make the originals, and what happened?
But that's a different thing. People are paying you for a product, and then you're making something that they don't want using their money. That's a little bit
I
different.
mean,
That's a
you can say
little
the same
bit
about
different.
Marvel. They're giving them money, they're making stuff. And okay, they're giving me all
No.
action, and then suddenly making horror. Hey, hold on, whoa.
No,
I didn't
what
order
I'm
this.
saying is you have the cachet, you have the fallback money to do this,
Okay,
but you
okay,
don't. It's different for
right.
Crunchyroll is because they're more of a direct user based model. People are paying you for this product from a different place. They're paying you for the subtitles. They're paying you for the library. Like, of course, you could say the same thing for Marvel and DC, but look at Immortal Hulk. You could say, "Oh, I'm paying for a Hulk story," but Immortal Hulk is more like horror based than maybe your average run of the mill Marvel comic in the mainstream lineup, and it was a hit. So there are obviously people that are getting something from Immortal Hulk that they didn't in previous Hulk stories or anything else in the lineup. So there's an audience there that wants something different, but you kind of have to trick them into wanting something different from being a mainstream character. So maybe
Okay,
that,
see,
maybe that's the solution. That
maybe
you
it's like
take
a
these
trickle effect,
characters and
little
then
here, a little
you
bit
yeah
there,
you flip
then
the
you slowly
genre.
build it up over time
Yeah,
to see if they want
yeah.
it.
Maybe that's the trick.
Yeah, it's like throwing a little bit. Okay, it's like throwing like some Cajun seasoning on something. Okay, you
Yeah,
didn't really like it at first,
yeah,
then you add a little bit more. Then okay.
yeah.
Then you just
And
over time and build it up, and then you get there. But that takes patience and a vision, which I don't, and good execution every time. So I don't know.
yeah, then I guess the thing that I get from manga that I don't get from comics is oh, this is hard to say because like I like my fair share of like slice of life stuff, but I'm not necessarily like looking for that in my regular comics. So I mean, it's kind of like a bonus, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But I guess I would say like not to be like really just mega fan, but I mean,
Yeah, but then I
shit
like
like
that element.
Genlock not hitting. You know what I'm saying?
I think one of my favorite stories, period, like this wasn't slice of life at all. This actually has to do with Nova. This was actually during the Axis storyline where everybody, good is bad, bad is good, and this is when the Hulk actually becomes like even the worst Hulk, like Claw. He fights Nova and breaks Nova's helmet, and when the Hulk comes back to normal, he becomes Doc Green and helps Nova fix his helmet. No fighting at all.
Yeah, to kind
That
of, I
was one of the
guess,
great. That was one of the best. Like when you read the story, you think like, bro,
yeah, I guess to
damn.
rectify my statement, I would like to say I get more off the wall concepts in manga
Yeah,
than
that
I
is
do in
definitely true.
comics.
That
Like,
no one can deny that.
yeah, like, because I recently finished the Gator Robo series, but and then like the plot line is that like the energy source turned the robot they were using sentient, and then people from the future come to destroy the robot because the robot in the future is like consuming all of the universe, and then by the end of it, the pilots of the robot kind of like meld their consciousness inside the robot, and then they shoot themselves off the moon and then go to sleep. Yeah, it's crazy, but
Yeah,
yeah, you get weird stuff like
fair.
you'll
Be
never
honest.
see you'll never see some shit like Attack on Titan in an American comic book.
Funny you should mention.
Yeah.
Like I remember when they did a little crossover with the Avengers versus Titans, bro. That was
Like
lit,
who was that for? Who was that
bro.
for?
Nah, stop.
That
That
was
was
for no
lit.
one.
I don't care nobody says
That
that
was
was
for no
dope.
one.
And then it ends with the Colossal Titan showing up, bro. That was, bro. Come on now, nobody.
That was for no
That was
one.
lit. I don't care. That's what I miss. Cause back in even back then, we were getting crossovers, bro. That was dope. No one can tell me otherwise.
True. And then I guess I'll say what I get from comics that I don't get from manga is, I guess, more gritty storytelling. Because I don't know, like when I read like a gritty manga or see a gritty anime like Bakano or something or Monster, I'm like, yeah, this story is cool, but I'm not really like, it's not that impactful to me. Like you read something gritty like I don't know, Sandman or I don't know some kind of Hellblazer, something like that. There's just that gritty feeling to it, kind of like that. You walk at night, and you could see something kind of strange or crazy if you like look over your shoulder. I feel like that's kind
Yeah.
of missing in manga. Like maybe it has something to do with like the color also, but I don't know. I just feel like there's not
Yeah.
enough. There's like, of course, someone's gonna be like, oh, like, what about Vinland Saga? What about Monster? I'm like, yeah, I don't know, man. It just doesn't hit the same to me, at least.
It's like, but I do feel like something we can all agree, manga and comics both have are like
or like
deep
something like
themes.
Watchmen, like that. Like you're not getting that from manga, at least to me, at least. Not getting like a cold
Do you agree that manga and comics both have deeper themes? They both at least
For
try to
sure.
like
Yeah.
explore those.
Yeah, of course. Like,
Yeah, it's like
I probably love Devilman as much as I love, I don't know, something like Green Lantern, but you know,
yeah, because it's like,
different
bro,
things.
it's like even with this like newer Iron Man run, this nigga dies, but he brings back a reboot of himself. So he has to really ask himself, what does it mean to be alive if he can just download his consciousness and just put it back into his body? Like, it's like both, like, and I do like that both like try to delve into the concepts. Some do it better than others, but I do appreciate when they try.
I feel like you get repeating concepts in manga because we don't really know Japanese culture, so it's not for us to say like we like the mainstream stuff gets pushed to the top over here, so we're not seeing like the gritty off the wall random indie stuff for the most part.
But do you feel like, okay, with some people repeating themes, do you feel like, okay, is some person, we like this theme so much we're gonna do it again, or do you feel like it's just like, this theme was cool, but I look at it from this perspective, so I'm gonna write about it from this perspective.
I mean, this is from Twitter, so take it as a grain of salt. From what I heard is like Japanese audiences, they love like the same thing over and over and over again, no matter what. Like they love like the typical shonen, action hero guy grows into man hero's journey type beat. They eat it up. That's what I heard over there because Tabata, the writer of Black Clover, I think he had a series before Black Clover that was kind of
a Hungry Joker.
Yeah, then it got axed because people weren't liking it. Then he got Black Clover, which I haven't read, but people say it stays within its genre. It does.
It is what it is.
It does. It goes through the motions, and then it's this long running popular series that.
I mean, not everyone likes fast food, but it's fast food, and that's what Black Clover is to me.
Yeah. So, I guess for the ending shot on this topic, like where do companies go? Where do comic book companies go from here? Is the future stuff like Kickstarter to get the stuff that you want from your indie comics? Is that the future for comic book consumers? Is it
for independent? Definitely
push towards animation? Do they go through movies? What do you think? What is the next step? How do they?
I definitely feel like
how do they save themselves from sinking sales every year? How do they save themselves? What do you think? Or is
as far as what the future holds for like for comics, I feel like independent creators should definitely go to like these independent sites to give them.
Also, do like established companies like DC, Marvel, Valiant, Boom,
this new series to start.
Can you say that
like
again?
Imagine it was like this. Okay, say a series like
hey,
this new Teen Titans didn't take off. Mm-hmm. So what we'll do is we'll move
for that version of Teen Titans, take it to Kickstarter, and the supporters that want to support it will support it, and that's the audience for it. You'll know who's supported by the people that put some money for it.
So what you're saying is that if your title is on the verge of getting canceled, that the creator should take it to a Kickstarter, like if you're making a Teen Titans book, something like that.
Yeah, take it to a Kickstarter, and you can put it in an isolated scenario, and see the people that want to buy it will pay for it, and we'll see that. But if it doesn't meet the mark, then guess what? It just wasn't meant to be.
Okay.
Maybe another time, but it just wasn't that. I feel like giving them a chance to really sell their idea, giving them a fallback to really sell their idea, because there's too much guesswork with the whole circulation process of comics.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you don't know the people that buy the comic companies that buy the comics, the comic shops that buy the comics, and then sell them. We don't know what those numbers are really doing because there's so many sources they're coming from. But if you give them a chance, like a direct site, you put in your money, and then you see that bar go up, and you keep going, you reach your mark, we know it works. That way we can figure out there's no guesswork around it. That's what that's Manga does that too. Okay, it's more streamlined. Streamline the process. What is what I'm saying.
Okay. So, would you say that comics are dying?
How do I put this? What do you mean by dying?
I guess in the sense that the sales are going down. Well, I'm not even going to say the sales are going down, but do you think comics are losing their relevance? At least, I guess I would. Well, to rephrase that, I guess to say that, do you think the mainstream Marvel and DC are losing their relevance?
No, I don't. I do believe the source material is not as appreciated as it once was. Because, yeah, I don't know if you remember the event from Death of Superman. People were lined up, they were news report teams, just interviewing people on like the fact that this happened. Like, what? Has that ever happened in the last 10 years?
Sure.
What?
Yeah, I remember picking up like a Reader's Digest or something back in 2006, and it was like Captain America is dead. I'm like, yeah, what was the last event? I guess the only things that get used now are like the controversial stuff, like Hulk is Asian now, blah blah blah. Wolverine's dead,
Yeah, it's like certain things that like just pop off. It's like they have to make something big happen, like Civil War. Great. Then Civil War 2 coming out.
I guess it would be disingenuous to say that the highest selling comic or manga in the U.S. is not manga or from DC or Marvel. It's the scholastic stuff like fucking Diary of a Wimpy Kid, Bone, or Dogman. I guess is the most popular comic book in America right now because it has like the number 1, 2. It has like the number 1 and 2 spots. So, I mean, I guess comics aren't dying in the sense that kids are still buying them. Because these are outselling My Hero, which is the number 1 manga above Marvel and DC, but it's still not outselling these Dogman comics, apparently.
I mean, I think we have to really consider that until like they're really not making much money from comics, Marvel really isn't going to do anything because at this point in time, they really have no need to. They can self-sustain themselves and play these games. I heard DC was letting people go. And it was just really rough. But I just hope that we find a way to streamline the process and make it as easy and as effective to put these ideas down on the paper and get them sold. Because I feel like right now we're all playing the run. We're playing the run, and we're not really focusing on putting out good work. We're just focusing on just putting out work. It's like this is high school all over again. There's some time we feel like, bro, let me just reach this work time and put it out. We're not really focused on really getting an A. As long as we don't get a C, we should be all right.
Yeah, I don't even think it's like a piracy problem or anything because lots of people read scans for manga, but they still buy their favorite series. So there's some sort of disconnect here that I'm not the person smart enough to figure it out.
But piracy, that's an interesting thing. I don't support it all because I want people to get paid for the work.
Yeah.
However, isn't there an idea that, okay, say things that
I'll say buy the thing that you like all the time. Yeah, I say buy the thing that you like all the time.
Yeah, like if you really enjoy, like, okay, let's say you really enjoyed, let's say you really enjoyed Batman and Killing Joke. It's a piracy version of it out. You read that, but it's so good you gotta get the hard copy.
Yeah.
Then,
but
at that point,
how
you're still winning, and no, I see some certain uncertainty to it.
Yeah, but for most people, that's what, like 1 out of every 100 series that they read, maybe 2 out of every 100. Like, how many is that? And like, what's the last comic story that made you go like, wow, I really want to go out and buy this?
And you also got to remember that, say you do push back against piracy. If you push back against piracy, people are going to want to pirate yourself more.
That's true.
And I'm not saying give up. I'm just saying that, okay, recognize what's going on here because there's a way for this to make it work for you. I definitely do think like a smart creator, the one that is business-minded, will find a way to make anything that happens to work for him.
And then, would you say that the disconnect between, like, I guess, American audiences knowing the comic writers, that kind of makes it more kind of out of sight, out of mind when they read a comic online? Like,
yeah.
Like, of course, you know that you love Spider-Man, but you're not necessarily going to know it. You're not necessarily going to know a Dan Slott or a Nick Spencer or something. Yeah, something like that. I mean, when you read Attack on Titan, you know Isayama made this. When you read, I don't know, Fairy Tail, you know Hiro Mashima made this.
Yeah, even if it's a side story, you know who wrote this.
Yeah.
And it's like, and I will say this, okay, but like Ultimate Spider-Man, I say Shadow Bendis whenever we bring that up because Ultimate Spider-Man was written by this. He might have assistant writers, but we know who was the face of that.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And I think, and I definitely do feel is important because these people helped make it. Stanley started us off, but he couldn't do everything.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I think the future is that. I guess for me, of course, this is gonna sound terrible, but I pirate all of the big two stuff I read, but then I buy the indie stuff or the stuff that's kind of out of the box. Like I'm sure. I mean, this is probably gonna add up to millions of people thinking the same way. I'm sure they're not gonna lose sleep over one person reading one issue of I don't know Miles Morales Spider-Man and be like, the piracy is killing the industry, but I'm sure when the next Spider-Verse movie's out, they're gonna have millions of copies sold, or not millions, but thousands of copies sold. So
fun fact, I was on Read Comics Online, trying to check them because they have a view system. That's the only reason I need it. I'd like to see how many people are looking into it. Okay, a while ago it was like 1,500,000 views, 500,000 views. After the show came out, they said like 15 million right now. So
yeah, I mean, the thing is though, I mean the Invincible compendiums are still selling out on Amazon, so I mean the people are buying them.
Yeah, it's just like, bro.
So I don't think we can blame piracy for everything.
Piracy is killing it. Come on.
I mean, what the anime? Yeah, the anime manga community is propped up by piracy.
Wait, what is it?
I said the anime and manga community is propped up by piracy. I mean,
now you're putting it out.
Oh, sorry. I said that the anime and manga community is propped up by piracy, and they're still doing fine.
Yeah, it's like, bro. The fact of the matter is that, like, whether we like it or not, this is the reality. The anime and manga community still has random piracy and it's thriving.
Yeah.
How is that possible?
Yeah, I will say I bought way more manga volumes than I have of comic runs as of late.
You cut out again.
Oh, I said I brought way more manga volumes than comic runs at this point. So
it's just like, bro, at this point in time, I feel like a business advisor would look at this and say, okay, being an anime, piracy might be a factor, but we can't. But that's what is it? This other industry is doing it, and they're thriving. So what are we not doing right? But I don't know, man. It's just like. This might be some internal. There's might be the internal values of Marvel or DC as we know it.
All right.
We just don't know.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any final thoughts on this topic?
We might have people that lean towards manga, people that lean towards comics. But I think we can all agree that Invincible is the future, and the future is Invincible.
Anyway, I'll just say don't go in too deep on either manga or comics. Try to have a good mix of both. You don't want to be the guy that just reads 100 manga just because, and most of it's mid. Just try to find something from both mediums that you like. That's all I'll say. And then 6, are you looking forward to reading anything next week or this week, I should say?
I'm looking forward to reading Moon Knight 2021. This is the current volume. This is the current issue of Moon Knight. Very happy, very much surprised. All this, I can't wait.
All right. And is that it? Anything else, or just Moon Knight?
I already said my slogan.
Okay.
So.
You want to try to plug Radiant Black for any of the prospective readers?
I think I'm going to save that for the next one, but
Okay, I got you. And then I guess for me, I'm just gonna keep reading New Mutants. That's good. Chris Claremont, GOAT. Don't believe the Hickman hype. And that's about it. Yeah, I guess I'm gonna read Faust since it's getting a TV show, but we'll see when I get there. But
if you
yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
If anyone feels like they have any recommendations, feel free to drop them below. We don't have any sponsorships yet, but we also will have. We do plan on having a few other members. There's in mind, and if you enjoy, that makes me happy. That's about it.
Oh yeah, and our book club starting next week, and we will be reading Silver Surfer Black by Donny Cates. So prepare for that next week. Silver Surfer Black. Because the art looks great. And that's it. Any final thoughts?
Got it. Okay.
Nothing? All right. Yeah, go ahead.
No, that's for me.
All right, we're out.